with your foot.
Oh.
The microphone in the foot.
Look, my favorite.
Listen for my how.
Hello, my name is Nicole.
And I'm Misha. And we are Virtual Moon. So,
What are we
today?
talking about? So we want to talk about manifestation and habits and how they work together for us to be able to manifest.
Do them.
And
Make
be
them
fulfilled.
happen.
So we've already covered intention and being able to have a really clear, very crisp intention coming from a good, healthy part of your heart. And then being aware of your blocks
And your triggers.
Otherwise,
Clearing out the, like you said, clearing out the weeds before you plant the seed. The seed is intention and the growth is the manifestation.
Yes. And then the manifestation is what you're working towards. And being able to be aware of your triggers and blocks is already that work, right? But we want to talk about habits because usually if you're trying to manifest something, it's you want something different in your life. You want something to change. And things don't happen magically. You do need to put some work into it. And part of the work is that
there's
awareness.
magic in the things that you can do. But yes, there's
magic. There is magic. But also you need to put in that work. And when you are working towards, you'll actually be surprised that it's not like crazy amounts of effort that you're putting in. It just almost happens naturally and progressively.
Yeah.
And we want to call that making new habits and manifesting.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about manifestation and what exactly that means. We do have an article, Intention versus Manifestation, that we will link in this description. So manifestation. I describe manifestation always to everybody that I talk about as the female counterpart of the male, and the male counterpart would be the intention. So it is literally the opening, the creation, the forming, so the growth. And seriously, imagine intention.
I thought the growth would be intention.
Imagine intention like the seed, or the direction, the purpose, the angle, and then the angle of the dangle. And then manifestation is fully the opening or the creation of that. So the idea behind manifestation is that it takes on its own form. The way that things are manifested are not at your own timing. You just know that that's what you've been wanting. That's been your intention. And when it's ready, it grows. And it's just like nature, right? So we never know that when things are going to actually grow or not. We just know there's timing for it. So when the
Sorry, it just all got really dirty.
It got real dirty real fast.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the truth of nature and biology and the way that things naturally work in our ecosystem. So it's a really easy metaphor for us to understand how things work energetically.
I think what you said about us not knowing how your manifestation is going to unfold is really true. This is something that I've been working through and that I'm a lot more aware of now, is this very false sense of you being able to control what's going on around you, right? And you might have so many ideas and you might have that really clear intention and you might even have all those steps to getting there. And you can follow all those steps all the way to your manifestation. It's not saying that having a plan is not helpful. It is. But a lot of the times, the way that you end up at that place is usually because something came up that you weren't expecting, and the way that you handle that new thing that comes up makes a huge difference. And that can sometimes throw us off, especially when we're trying to make that roadway to our manifestation. We're trying to change the way that we do things, that we think, and making these new healthy habits to get us to our end goal. And then all of a sudden, something comes up from left field and you're like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I can't because I'm on my road to success and you're not part of my road. You're not part of my step. I'm sorry. I need to ignore you. And a lot of the times you ignore that and you realize you've missed a really big opportunity. And then you go back to the beginning and you're like, no, I can't do it. I messed up.
And that's something that we want to address primarily in terms of building healthy habits and allowing the process to unfold. So a lot of times you're going to find that as you're trying to change something, or if you want to bring something new in, you're going to have to change a lot of things, because maybe you have actually created a process in your life where the thing that you want is actually you're not actually allowing yourself to come in. In a real day, every day-to-day habit, it's something that you physically are doing that is not in alignment with the thing that you're asking to come in. So we have to be really self-aware of the thoughts that we're telling ourselves, the actions that we're doing. And when we create these healthy habits, what are we doing? How are we doing them? And how are we able to achieve them so that they can stick, so that the things that we want can actually have a formation and a pathway?
And if you sit and you think about it, it actually makes sense, to be able to leave room for chance and for things that we might not be able to foresee, because obviously we can't see into the future. We're not amazing like that. But also, it's really easy to understand if you think of it as, I don't have control over this thing. If I'm trying to build this new habit, inevitably, I'm gonna at some point work my old pattern into this, because it's human nature. We're not perfect. So we're trying to manifest something new. We're trying to break old habits, create new patterns, but that's really hard to do. And so at some point, you're gonna hit something that's gonna stop you, that's gonna cycle you into that pattern. And that's not to mean that you failed. It's just that you need to recognize that. So sometimes we think we're on this like road to success, like the magical yellow brick road.
Then we have a roadblock.
Yeah, and that's exactly your roadblock.
And I think that as we move forward every day, understanding what healthy habits we can put into our lives, because of course you have a vision of what you want, but how do you see yourself in that vision? And understanding, like, if you see yourself healthy and happy, if you see yourself fulfilled, then maybe there's some aspect of fulfillment that you need to create a new habit towards, so that you can get there.
And the habit forming part is a really uncomfortable piece of it, because it's something we're trying to fit into our life that hasn't been there before. And so it takes some time to acclimate to that. And we've talked about it before. It can take up to 66 days to form a habit. And that's like mean if you're in the average, right? It could take up to a year. And for a habit to really sit into your life, for you to almost become autopilot, it can be up to 5 years. Like, we know that with a lot of people who have addiction issues, they might be able to not use a drug for 3 years, but I don't want to say that they're ever cured, or they're not really in the clear that it's become a new habit for them until after 5 years, that really truly starts to subside.
When you have a cue, some kind of cue, like you already are going to do that thing in the day, and so that's your cue. And so then you create a habit around that cue, and then you do the experience of your habit, you create it, and then you give yourself a sense of reward after you've done the habit. So you can actually reward yourself, and then like the dopamine kind of spikes up a little, and it's like, oh, I did good job me.
Yeah.
And
you're anticipating having that reward at some point.
And so you're more likely to keep it. In that practice of meditation, you can understand the openings that you can kind of create in saying, what do I want more of? And what actions can I take to get here? And when you're sitting in meditation, you're really, really honest, and you don't have to tell anybody what it is that you see. It's easier to overcome those problems and understanding what you're facing truly within yourself.
And anything that you want, anything that you feel is a meditative state for you is really healthy. And I think that was my biggest saving grace when things get difficult for me, or being able to identify things that come at you from the laughter like you're not expecting, is being able to just sit with it. Because a lot of the times we will be triggered from whatever it is that pops up to us. We'll be like just emotionally triggered. And so if you have a practice of meditating, somehow you're able to kind of pull yourself back, see it from an outside point of view, and come to the realization that things don't just happen for no reason. Everything happens for a reason, and everything that we learn and do will serve us at some point, the good and the bad.
But ultimately, the idea of, well, the philosophy of Buddhism is even that we strive for a state of nirvana, we strive for a state of happiness, but in fact, it's unattainable sometimes, because you're striving for something that you can't be happy all the time. That's not the reality of life. What we want to attain is contentment. Like, how can we be good enough where we feel happiness in our days, and we feel like things are moving towards happiness some days, and other days when things are not so happy, you're still okay with it. You still can process it, and you can still see, okay, I'm in this phase, I'm going to let myself experience it, but then I'm going to move towards another phase, because you're always in a state of flux.
Yeah, and nothing is forever, and everything will pass, even when you're in these like horrible states that you're like, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. It's gonna pass, and in a few years it'll still be sucky, but you'll see it in a different point of view, which is a really good thing to remember.
Yeah, don't forget that things get easier. Or what is the quote? This too shall pass.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll put that in the.
Not Gandalf. I thought of Gandalf.
Gandalf says that.
No, he says, you shall not pass.
Which you will pass, don't worry. Okay, if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you did not like this video, you know.
I hate you.
No, just go on to another video.
I let you go.
We release you. We accept you. Bye.
If you like what you hear and you want to keep the conversation going, listen to our podcast, Ritual Común Contigo.
Also, check out our Instagram where we have affirmations, oracle cards, and give a special message just for you.
Make sure to check out our website,
ritualcomún.com.
Inhala,
Exhala. Inhala. Exhala.